And the rocket's red glare, the bumpers singing air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. If everyone could stay standing, we're now going to sing the Hatikva, Israel National Anthem. Kol odaleva penima nefesh Yehudi omina ufatei mizrach kadima ayin letzion Sophia. Everyone, please have a seat, enjoy some bagels, and we'll get the program started for this annual legislative breakfast, marking the start of QJCC's 56th year of service. I want to announce and thank the wonderful sponsors of this event. I'm going to, I guess in no particular order, but longtime sponsor, Margaret Teets Nursing and Rehabilitation Center, with QJCC Vice President Linda Spiegel and representatives, Shimmy Pellman, our Democratic District Leader, QJCC Board Member, and I think he's been busy enough, he's an incoming QJCC Vice President as well. The Parkland Jewish Institute for Healthcare and Rehabilitation, represented by President and incoming Board Member Michael Rosenberg, and a nice table full of representatives. The Free Synagogue of Flushing, QJCC Board Member Cantor Ellen Bravo, who is the Jewish language, is doing much better. The NJHS Health System, represented by Tony White. The Northeast Chairman Gordon Burak is here. I want to thank the AJC of New York, Josh Kramer, Director of the Northeast Region, Robert Skolnick, President, and representatives including Marissa Burak, Deputy Director of the Northeast Region, and served with me, and Borough President Richard's Queens General Assembly. We also have Stand With Us, the Executive Director of Northeast England, Northeast and New England Region, Avi Poznick is here. We want to thank JCRC of New York with the incoming Executive Director Mark Traeger, who's here. Howard Pollock is here. And of course, Israel Miller is here, which is always appreciated. We want to thank the Met Council. We want to thank Queens College, represented by Jeffrey Rosenstock, the Assistant VP of Queens College, representing President Andrew. So thank you to all the sponsors. That's just the sponsors. Impressive group of leaders who are here to be introduced by Larry. But let me now, just before I introduce my rabbi, Rabbi Dov Lerner, to give the invitation, let me just take 2 minutes to summarize what QJCC is, why we're all here, and why an outstanding group of Jewish leaders from Queens is about to affirm their commitment to fulfill roles on the QJCC board. In the 2023 fiscal year, QJCC provided free kosher pantry food to 1,481 unique visitors representing 4,353 individuals, supplying food to 852 seniors, 2,595 adults, and to 906 children. Recipients come from all over Queens and beyond. QJCC currently delivers 4 kosher meals a week to 65 individuals in Queens with mobility impairment, the vast majority of whom are seniors. While the exact weekly number of recipients fluctuates, this averages to providing 13,520 needed meals a year to seniors in Queens. QJCC also provides case assistance, including support with housing issues, including SCREE, Senior MetroCard assistance, immigrant issues, and translation. QJCC is a SNAP enroller through Met Council, now to 2 days a week. QJCC caseworker Marina Littman serves as a New York State of health insurance navigator, helping about 40 individuals or families a month access affordable health insurance through the state's marketplace system. That's some 480 clients a year. This service is available to people until the age of 65, but our staff help older seniors access Medicare and Medicaid as well. QJCC also provides popular cultural programs. We've already offered 3 Jewish music concerts this year right nearby in Cunningham Park, which together were enjoyed by some 6,000 people. QJCC looks to Queens synagogues and organizations to partner on related programs, and QJCC works with partners to fight anti-Semitism and hate. And QJCC works to support Israel. This has been and continues to be the toughest year in recent memory for Israel. On October 7th, Hamas launched thousands of rockets indiscriminately across Israel, and thousands of Hamas operatives savagely attacked thousands of civilians in Israel. Some 1,200 people were tortured, raped, or murdered, and some 253 babies, children, young and old women, men were dragged away as hostages. Israel has since been attempting to get back these hostages and to assure that Hamas will not be able to repeat such atrocities as they vowed to do. The ugliness of war has brought out some ugly anti-Semitism across the world. While some 130 hostages, including Americans, are still being held after 127 days, and while some 200,000 Israelis are still displaced because of Hamas's continued indiscriminate bombings in Israel, traffic here is being stopped and college Jews are being harassed by protesters insisting Israel make a one-sided ceasefire, unconscionably without any corollary requirement for the release of the hostages or for Hamas to lay down their arms and to cede Gaza to civil leaders. These protesters pretend or speak in ignorance or lie about Israel being occupiers when in fact Israel evacuated all of Gaza in 2005 and in return have been attacked from within ever since. They pretend, speak in ignorance, or lie about Israel being colonialist against indigenous people when in fact the only land that has ever been the Jews' land that they could colonially represent is Israel, and there is no more indigenous people to Israel than the Jews. The country is covered in archaeological dig sites that prove it. They pretend, speak in ignorance, or lie about Israel representing a white race against brown people, ignoring the more than half the Israel population made up of Jews from Middle Eastern, Asian, and African descent. They pretend to speak in ignorance or lie about a free Palestine, but a simple search of the freedom scores from NGOs such as Freedom House or the Cato Institute show that there are no other free countries in the region. Certainly not Iran or Syria or Yemen, but even countries with which Israel has treaties like Egypt and Jordan, or those like Saudi Arabia with which Israel may have treaties soon. The only free country in the region is Israel, and the freest Arabs and Muslims in the region are Israel's 2 million Arab citizens. Dara Horn, in her precious award-winning book, People Love Dead Jews, notes the Bible's famous call for freedom is let my people go. But in the Bible, these words are nearly always followed by another phrase, so they may serve me. The only purpose of this freedom is to enable the people to voluntarily accept divine laws about welcoming strangers, loving one's neighbors, and accepting responsibility for creating a civic society of mutual obligation. The insane conspiracy theories that motivate people who commit anti-Semitic violence reflect a fear of real freedom, a fondness for tyrants, an aversion to ideas unlike their own, and most of all, a casting off of responsibility for complicated problems. The freedoms that we cherish are meaningless without our commitments to one another, to civil discourse, to actively educating the next generation, to welcoming strangers, to loving our neighbors. The beginning of freedom is the beginning of responsibility. QJCC aims to fulfill such responsibility and is grateful to all the leaders and individuals who work with us and who work toward such necessary goals. With that, I ask our host and my rabbi, Rabbi Dov Lerner, to give the invocation to our Torah.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much. Welcome one and all to our synagogue, a place of prayer, focused on communal welfare and dedicated to deepening the bonds of care that we all share for each other. Welcome to legislators, representatives, lay leaders, ambassadors, advocates, judges, volunteers, guests, all. Thank you for being here and for showing your support, and thank you to the QJCC for all that you do, providing food and finances, moral support and hope to assist those who are most in need. And thank you to Rabbi Waxman for the introduction and for all that you do for the community. Now, one of the most serene sights known to humankind is the clear night sky. People will travel, I'm sure many in this room have traveled for miles and miles to escape the glow of artificial light for a single, pure, unpolluted glimpse of the cosmic canvas that has been called the Symphony of Silent Stars, a refuge from the cacophony of the human heart. But we know for all its serenity, for all its apparent silence, beneath the starlight lies a trillion colliding molecules, each with the capability of obliterating a galaxy. The sheer heat of the gentle radiance that we see would be enough to liquefy light as we know it if it were unleashed. And perhaps it was with this paradoxical knowledge that the celestial potential for volatility and collision in fact produces such beauty and radiates such harmony, that the Jewish sages of old formulated a sentence which brings an end to our daily prayers. After we have appealed for health and wisdom and prosperity and redemption, we say every single day in words that will no doubt sound familiar, Oseh Shalom B'Romah, he who makes peace in the heavens, Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, make peace upon us on earth. In a world still so tainted by hate, still so bathed in pain, we pray for harmony and peace, for a heaven-like canopy of serenity that lifts every human being on earth to embrace the grace of our Creator and change the face of humanity for good. So I conclude, you'll be pleased to know, Oseh Shalom B'Romah, he who makes peace upon high in the heavens, Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, may he make peace upon us on earth. May all our dreams come to be in a world redeemed by acts of generosity like those performed by the QJCC and the rest of us. And let us say, Amen. Welcome, enjoy the bagels.
Just one short video presentation that we were asked to play by one of the families of the hostages, after which we will proceed with today's festivities.
Uh-oh. He's not crying.
You know, the board, voted to ask Rabbi Meir to join us as our executive director rather. And for me, when I interviewed him in my office, and we had a search committee looking for someone to take over the operation, knowing what we're going to be doing in the future. This guy has made my life very, very easy, and it's going to make your life, Barry, a lot easier. He is incredible. Let's give him a hand. Mayor Waxman. Well, I said this last year, that this is probably my last time speaking at the legislative breakfast, so I didn't tell the truth. But this is the last time I'll be speaking as president of this organization at the legislative breakfast. And it'll probably, and it is, matter of fact, over a decade now, I've never had a bagel prior to going home. And today my wife prepared it. I thank you. I had a bagel first. Thank you. Well, good morning. And as always, we have an incredible crowd, and I want to thank, and the mayor did publicly, all our sponsors. Without you, this is a free breakfast for those that are joining us today, but the sponsors help us carry the way here to make sure that we have everyone gets satisfied and we don't have a loss. And please remember one thing, take everything from the table home with you. Don't leave it. I am confident in the new leadership that is coming to this organization. And I think that what's important to know is that in any organization, there needs to be continuity. And the leadership of our organization and stands behind our new president coming in, Barry. And I want you to know that, A, I am stepping down as president, but I'm going to be standing up here when the Attorney General swears in our new board. I will be there, for a long time. So I've been doing things like this for a long time, and I have to thank one person who has given me the opportunity of doing what I do, not just in New York, but actually around the world. And that's my wife, Dale. For over 54 years now, that we've been married, she has been right behind me, many times in front of me, many times stopping me from going overboard. And without someone at home to support you, without the family, you can't do what I do, what Barry's gonna do, what many people here that are involved in organizations do every single day. And I give a shout out to all the elected officials that are here. Without your help and your support, both from the federal, state, and local elected officials, you serve your community. You are there, unfortunately or fortunately for your family, 24/7. I know that when I was in government 50-some-odd years ago. You don't have an ability to say no, and you don't have an ability to shut down because you have an obligation to your community, whether you're elected or appointed or just serve in government. And that's important. QJCC has come a long way in the last decade. We finally have a building. We dedicated it in October. Very difficult angle to read. We have our building, and we've established ourselves in one of the most important Jewish organizations in Queens, certainly, but also in New York City. 3 of our board members of QJCC sit on the JCRC board. 1 member of ours works for UJA, and others have senior positions and are involved in numerous senior positions in other Jewish organizations, not just in the city, but nationally. We are, though, as a Jewish community, we have issues. And I want to be able to say that thank you, there. That's all right. That's all right. So we have our building with the help of the state legislature and Jeff Aubrey that couldn't be here. But more important, and you'll hear about someone later, there was a woman in the state assembly long, long time ago. Her name was Nettie Mayerson. Everyone knows Nettie. Nettie was the first person that stood up and helped us when we had to buy the building on Jewel Avenue and Main Street. But over the next couple of years, we're going to be expanding that building by rebuilding the garage next door. And I want to say thank you to Senator Toby Stavisky and Senator Leroy Comrie. Toby, where are you, Toby? Sitting there. Each of them have pledged sufficient money for us to rebuild that entire building to have one of the most incredible food pantries. And I know Met Council and you, David, is very much going to be involved in helping us rebuild that. It will be a food pantry that you could call in ahead of time and we can prepare all the food that you need and you can get it right away, and it's going to take us to another level to be able to serve the entire Jewish community in Queens, as well as many other people that are food starved in our city and our community. And knowing all the time that when I come up here, I'd like to share some of my thoughts on the future of the Jewish community. In many ways, we still look upon the Jewish community in terms of how we practice our beliefs. When people refer to the Jewish community as a force, whether politically or financially, I believe it's a false impression. People assume that we have sometimes more power than we actually have. But within us, the Jewish community is still divided in many aspects of life, and I guess that's not going to change. But when it comes to the threat of Israel, we are united as one. We may disagree politically, but the survival of the Jewish state is paramount and embedded in our DNA. You know, after thousands of years wandering around the world, we have a place, a nation that we can call home. We will never leave, and we will always defend the right of Israel to defend itself against those who wish to wipe us off this earth. But here in America, I believe we've lost some of our basic values that we've always stood for, not just as Jews, but as individuals and as people. In my lifetime, we stood for those who were oppressed. We fought for the right to vote and marched to guarantee everyone's right to vote in the South as well as in the North. Those social values of togetherness and being responsible for your neighbor, regardless of political affiliation, somehow has gotten lost. We've fought anti-Semitism and hate since basically we are the poster child for hate. We defend and fight for democracy and freedoms that we lost as a people, as slaves of Israel. It is in Egypt. As Jews, though, we became the wanderers around the world for the millennium. We never had a home. But today, our values are still being challenged, and in some respects, our freedoms may be taken away. I have been a publisher for over 30 years, so words matter to me. When people embrace those who wish to wipe us off the face of the earth, those who march with hoods, and those who believe in an autocratic government, I worry as Jews where we will be when those freedoms and rights are diluted or even taken away. The world today is in turmoil. Our natural allies are actually questioning our right to have a state of our own. Maybe I worry too much, and I've given this type of speech before, but if I can't worry, I can't fix. So I don't think I worry too much. But I worry about our shrinking influence and representation in government. But maybe that's a natural evolution in our society. And I embrace that. I embrace the change of our society. People think of the Jews in New York particularly as a power force. We are no longer that. We are a minority of minorities and minorities. But we have to respect those that are emerging in our community and learn to work with them. That's what JCRC does each and every day. We can't forget not only where we came from, but we can't forget the people that need us and we need them. That's an important message. You look around this room. However, I will always fight for our right to get a fair share
Thought it was
of
a good idea.
opportunities and programs for our community. And I'll always fight for the right of Israel to exist. Well, Barry, I'm now about to hand this over to you. And what we're doing is something we haven't done before. We're going to swear in the president, and we have a special guest to do that. And then Barry will introduce the Attorney General to introduce our new board. And I ask those members who are members of our board, when the Attorney General does that, let everyone see who you are by please coming up. So I'd like to introduce a good friend of both Barry and I, and the people of Queens, State Supreme Court Justice Lee Mayerson, to please induct our new president, Barry Grodinchik.
One second before you do that, much appreciated. Yeah, I think we should do it now. I think it makes sense.
Good morning, everybody. I don't want you to think we're losing our leadership. Just because he's stepping down as the president doesn't mean he has the right to leave us. And I'm glad you do. On behalf of the board, on behalf of the people present, I'd like to present you with a little plaque just to commemorate how much we care and love you, and that we hope that for many, many more years of good health and happiness, you'll be able to help the people of Queens, the people of New York State, and the entire world. Thank you very much.
Step outside. There you go. Judge, please. Thank you. Everybody's gonna look at Walter first. Okay, then you're gonna look at me. Thank you very much. Okay, you're all done.
Thank you, everybody. Just gives me great pleasure to be the one to administer the oath of office to my good friend, Barry Grodinchik. Like the Nussbaums, Barry and I have been together for about 54 years, I think. So, with great pleasure. Barry, I'm going to ask you to please raise your right hand. Raise your right hand. Repeat after me.
I,
Barry Grodinchik.
I, Barry Grodinchik,
Do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the bylaws of the Queens Jewish Community
and the
Council,
bylaws of the Queens Jewish Community Council,
and that I will faithfully execute the duties of President to the best of my ability.
and that I will faithfully execute the duties of President to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, your new president.
Oh, yeah. I did it. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, that's a good thing. There's a lot of people I have to thank. I'm looking around the room. I better start with my family. Whenever something like this happens, I think of my parents of blessed memory, who emigrated to Queens from the borough of the Bronx. And the reason I say that is because when my mother would talk about the change in living from the Bronx to Queens, she would say it was like moving to another country. She had the elevated railroad 3 blocks away and all those good things. So, Mom and Dad, you remembered each and every day. My wife, with whom none of this happens, without whom she kicks me out of the house on a regular basis to do good things. My dear wife, Dr. Deborah Grodinchik. my son David Grudenchik, my sister Karen Grudenchik, who's busily filming, and of course, we have an input from Brooklyn, my dear mother-in-law, Sandra Rothberg. I'm not going to say much because we have a long program. Much has been said. I want to thank Mayor for everything that he does and what you're going to do starting at 11 o'clock from now on.
Get to start at 11?
Well, I'll give him a few minutes off. I want to thank, of course, my predecessor. Look at the big smile on his face and Dale's face. Michael Nussbaum, who I go back more years than either of us would like to count, but they've been good years. And Michael, the Shimmy said it, but we cannot thank you enough for the work that you have done, not just for the Queens Jewish community, but for communities throughout Queens and well beyond the city of New York. So thank you for your work, and I look forward to continuing to work with you. It has to be said that this is the most difficult time for the Jewish people in my lifetime, certainly my adult lifetime. And you've heard from parents of one hostage via video this morning. Everybody in this room is affected by what happened on October 7th. I want to make it very clear, this council has for 3 times 54 years, reached across the ethnic, religious, socioeconomic, every divide that we might have to bring people closer together. We're nonpartisan, we're non-sectarian, well, we are Jewish, but we are all those things. And we want to work, and my message to all the people in this room and beyond is that the Queens Jewish Community Council stands ready, willing, and able to work with people from all over the world who came here to make a better life in the great borough of Queens. Many years ago, I wrote a line for my dear hero and mentor, Claire Schulman, of blessed memory. And the reason why Queens is so diverse is that people come here from all over the world. They land at JFK Airport. They go through customs, immigration, all that stuff. They get in a car or a cab or whatever they do, and they get on the Van Wyck Expressway and they can't get anywhere, so they get off and they stay in Queens. And that's the truth. We've got a lot of work to do. On the Van, no, not on the Van Wyck. They're working on the Van Wyck. But we will not be silent. Our voices will be raised, and I want to thank each and every one of you for being here this morning. I will introduce very quickly our elected officials, and I'm going to ask them to stand when I do introduce them. But first, we have to swear in the board, Madam Attorney General. And I have to tell you a quick story about our Attorney General. We were at a rally a number of years back. It was a cold night at JFK. And she was kind of cold, and I had 2 hats. I want to show you the wisdom of this woman. So I gave her my little Met hat. I offered her that. It wasn't so good. And there was a 32 BJ hat, which 32 BJ represents the service employees in the city of New York. And she wisely took the snug-fitting, very warm 32 BJ hat. And I figured I'll never see it again, but a few days later at the council session, she was presiding as the public advocate. Not only did I get it back, but it was neatly laundered. So I don't know where she finds time to do all this. But our Attorney General in the state of New York, the great Letitia James.
Good morning, everyone.
Didn't work for me either.
It's not gonna share. It's not gonna share.
Thank you so much. No, I wouldn't fly. The angle is There we go. There we go. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Oh, we can do better than that. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's an honor and a privilege to be with all of you this morning, and it's also an honor and a privilege to be here as a part of the Queens Jewish Community Council Legislative Breakfast. Yay! If you love the bagels, make some noise. Yay! Come on, it's a tradition. First, I want to thank Barry for that kind introduction. You know, Barry and I go back to my days as a member of the City Council. And the reason why this position is perfect for Barry is because Barry was always a bridge builder, a consensus builder, someone who reached out to others, and someone who engaged in dialogue, and someone who recognized our common humanity. That's why Barry is perfect for this job. He is my friend, and I am so proud that he will now be president of this auspicious organization. And I look forward to working with him, and whatever I can do in my capacity as the Attorney General, I look forward to working with him. Another round of applause for Barry. I'd also like to acknowledge my friend, the outgoing president, Michael Nussbaum. As most of you know, when I came to this organization, I come from a faraway place called Brooklyn. And as you know, that was your brother president. As most of you know, I represented Crown Heights for 10 years and was very close to the Orthodox community in Crown Heights. I'm an honorary Lubavitch, as most of you know. For 10 years, I served that community. Michael welcomed me. Michael talked a lot about the bond between the African American community and the Jewish community. Michael talked to me a lot about making sure that we established relationships and that we all got to know each other, and that we got past the myths and the stereotypes, and that we all recognize that we are in this together. I want to thank him for that education. I want to thank him for extending a hand. I want to thank him for recognizing that the only way that we can achieve peace and understanding, is with mutual understanding. He has been a great friend of the Jewish people, but even beyond that, he's been a great friend of all communities, not only in the city, not only in Queens, but throughout the city and throughout the state of New York and throughout this nation. God bless you and thank you. A round of applause. Michael has steered this ship through very challenging times, and he's done it with grace and skill and with understanding. The Queens Jewish Community Council is absolutely essential, both to this borough and to our city and to our state. And during these very difficult times, we truly see how reliant we are all on strong, vibrant, and active organizations like this council. It's also important to know that not only does members of the Jewish community get fed here, it's every member that gets fed here. They don't turn away anyone. They only ask, what would you like to eat? And that's why all of us should support this wonderful organization. These are very difficult times, my friends. And Michael knows as he moves on. And it's up to all of us, each and every one of us in this room, to make sure that we stand together with the Jewish community and with the state of Israel. And that we all, again, push for peace and the safe return of the hostages that were taken by Hamas, brutally taken by Hamas. It's really critically important that all of us understand the history also between the Jewish community and the African American community. During the civil rights struggle, it was Jewish blood that was also spread and individuals died for it. Their blood was spread all throughout the South. It's also important to know that when Black people were treated like second-class citizens, it was the Jewish community that allowed Black people to come through the front door and not the back door in their stores. They referred to Black people not as through their first names, but they called them Mr. and Mrs. It was Jewish organizations that were responsible for historically Black colleges, too, that provided funds. I am a proud graduate of a historically Black college. It was the Jewish community that was in the forefront of a number of civil rights organizations, including the NAACP. And in fact, a number of Jewish members serve on the boards of NAACP. They marched with us. They fought with us. They died for us. And therefore, all of us must stand with the Jewish community now and forever. And so as a proud African-American woman, I, again, proudly say that I'm a member of the Orthodox community, but more important, I am an ally and a friend of the Jewish community. And of course, we want to thank the wonderful, wonderful executive director of the Queens Jewish Community Council, Mayor Waxman. Obviously, for providing support and services and assistance to this wonderful organization that this city and this state relies on. And I also want to thank the Acting Consul General of Israel, Avi Ezra, for joining us here today. Thank you so much. Did I get it right? No, did I get it right? How did I say it? Well, how did I say your name?
Well, just a different person.
Oh, okay. Oh, Avi's not here? Okay, sorry. Yuval Donia Gideon. Yay! He's the Council for Public Diplomats. Yay, round of applause. The bonds between our state and the state of Israel run deep, and our presence here today obviously symbolizes that. And of course, we know that Israel is a valued state to the city, and to the state, and to this nation. And that I know I speak for everyone in this room. And I've met with a number of family members of hostages. We pray for their safe return. And most importantly, as children of one God, as children who share a common humanity, we pray for the safe hostages and we pray for peace. Peace in the land. So let's continue to pray for peace for all of us. I am one who believes in peace and who does not believe in war. And so I hope that you will all join me as the rabbi prayed this morning, obviously for peace in the land. I also want to recognize all of my colleagues in public service. And of all stripes, liberal, progressive, Republican, independent, I don't want to be bothered, they're all here. Yay! And we welcome them. We welcome them, and if I would, I know someone's going to recognize all of them. So let me simply say this. We've got this wonderful group of individuals and elected officials here. It really is a testament to the outstanding service of this wonderful organization that helps the poor, that helps the hungry, that visits the homeland, and the elderly, and I thank them. And again, they really fight for the Jewish community. They fill the air with music and culture. And again, a deep understanding. And you help individuals, and particularly Jewish institutions and members of this community, feel safe and secure, particularly at a time when we are seeing an increase in anti-Semitism and hate. And I know that I can speak on behalf of all elected officials, that we will not tolerate hate in New York City and in New York State, not now, not ever, no matter what the political affiliation. We all stand together, shoulder to shoulder, arm in arm, against hate. And so this really is important work that we all do, because anti-Semitism and hate in general really is a poison, and it's a cancer, and it must be extracted. And that's why we must all stand together. But our wisdom is older, and we are stronger and wiser, and our vigilance is equal to the task, and we are all up to the task. And that's why it's an honor and privilege to serve with these amazing elected officials. So I thank them all for being here. And now I have the honor and privilege of swearing in your board members. I'm going to borrow Melinda's glasses because thank you. Thank you, dear. We are very close. So, Mr. President Barry Bendenchik, would you join me? Shimmy, will you join me? Yay. Yanni Curvo, will you join me? Directors, David Berger, will you join me? Jeff Fox, will you join me? Mark Goldman, will you join me? And he will serve as the director. Michael Nussbaum, will you join me? Michael Rosenbluth, will you join me? Alana Davidoff, will you join me? As we swear in, and please face the cameras.
They can put my name down. I'm preempting. I don't think she's there. Isn't there a bigger list? Oh, these are just directions? Let's go.
Ready? Gene, all the board members.
We were in a city council hearing. It was pretty tense. People were arguing left and right. And then Karen's phone rang, and her ringtone has Jay-Z on it, and everyone started laughing. And that's what we need. We love that. Okay.
Everybody's going to have to move back, except for this lady here. Everybody's going to have to move back. Unless you're on the council, please move back. Okay, ma'am, please, everybody move back. Thank you.
Please raise your hand, your right hand. To uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. The Constitution of the great state of New York, and the bylaws of the Queens Jewish Community Council. Oh no, you gotta say that again, you gotta say it loudly. And the bylaws of the Queens Jewish Community Council. Congratulations and thank you. Yay! Thank you so much and congratulations on their roles. Let's give them a round of applause, everyone.
Those people that need to be recognized, and there's a lot of them. It's a very dangerous business recognizing people. Many years ago, at a chock-full Colden auditorium, Claire Schulman was giving a state of the borough, and at the end she said, you know, there's so many wonderful people here, but if I start to introduce them, I'm going to get into trouble. Isn't that right, Rabbi Fabian Schoenfeld? Now, of blessed memory. And he was the only one who got introduced that day. And he had a smile on his face that went from here to Brooklyn. But in no particular order, while I do have a list, we've heard from our Attorney General. We are going to hear, and let's have a round of applause for our two elected, borough-wide elected officials, Donovan Richards, our Borough President, our District Attorney Melinda Katz. From the Congress, my Congress member and a dear friend, of course, and they're all dear friends, but Congresswoman Grace Meng. From the state, so less happy. From the New York State Senate, sitting with my family, my former state senator, John Liu. My current state senator, Tony Antonisky, where are you? The person I know in this room longer than anybody except for Judge Mayerson, and as my dear friend and brother from another mother, Senator Leroy Commerce. The woman who represents the district next to me in the New York State Assembly, and I don't know how she keeps that baby so quiet, Assemblywoman Nellie Rosen. We have from Northeast Queens, another dear friend, of course, Assemblywoman Ed Weinstein. From the far reaches of Queens, area that our borough president used to represent the city council, but is representing the state assembly now by Stacey Pfeffer Amato. Stacey, my assembly member, and whose district we're in right now, the Honorable David Weprin. And representing the district I used to represent in the New York State Assembly, Assemblyman Ron Kim.
Yes.
I think I got all the assembly members. All right, we have a minion of city council members, and this is in alphabetical order. From the far reaches of southern Queens, Council Member Joanne Ariola. Please stand up, I don't know if you are. From the far reaches that aren't really that far away, our Majority Whip, Selvina Brooks Powers. The chair of the Jewish caucus, and he would have been my mother's council member, except she was smart and moved to Queens, Councilman Eric Ginowitz. And the person who lives closest to this event, I think, just happens to be the council member here also with his lovely wife, our dear friend, Councilman Jim Gennaro. If you don't like this council district, you can cross 188th Street and hang out with my dear friend and council member Linda Lee. From the great borough of Manhattan. We call it Manhattan, or we call it New York County. From New York County, she came all the way out here to see how the bagels are in Queens. Councilmember Julie Menon. from Northeast Queens, and everybody knows this woman, Councilmember Vicky Palladino. And from the great borough of Forest Hills, my dear friend and Councilmember Lynn Shulman. And from the great city of Flushing. Land of my, well, I was born in the Bronx, but the land of my upbringing, Councilmember Sandra Ung. And she wasn't on my list, but she's here. Councilmember Natasha Williams. Please. We have former council members in the audience. You've heard the Attorney General gush about her, but I'm going to gush about her a little as well. My fellow board member here, Councilwoman Karen Koslowitz. Somewhere out there, I saw him causing trouble. Former Councilmember Dennis Gallagher. From the great borough of Brooklyn. I could say that now with you here, I'm anyone here. The head of the Met Council on Jewish Poverty, former Councilmember David Greenfield. And a person who everybody in this room is going to get to know a lot better in the coming months and years, because he's about to assume a job of great responsibility. And that is my dear friend, my former chair on the Education Committee, and currently an employee of the Department of Education. But on March 3rd, 4th, on March 4th, the new CEO, is that right? CEO of the JCRC of New York, former Councilman Mark Tregner. All right, we're getting close. We have from Mayor Eric Adams' office, Deputy Chief of Staff and Senior Advisor, Menashe Shapiro. We have Senior Liaison to the Community Affairs Unit, Moshe Davis. And somewhere I saw our Deputy Commissioner Anthony Giuliano. Where are you? We have from Governor Hochul's office, Deputy Director of Jewish Affairs, Eva Weiner. From Controller Brad Lander's office, the Citywide Jewish Liaison, Penny Heiken. From the Council Speaker, Adrian Adams, former chair of Community Board 12, I have to say that. She was one of my chairs back then. But now the Speaker, her Community Liaison, everybody's favorite person, Pesach Rosina. And another favorite of ours, Grace May's Community Liaison, is Rabbi Daniel Paul. Right over there. I think I got everybody. I got former Assemblyman and now a big wheel at the UJA. Where's Dan Rosenthal? You're going to hear from Rabbi Potashnik. Oh, very important. I'm a big lifelong Met fan. From the New York Mets and point 72, Michael Sully Sullivan. And I certainly want to thank the men and women of the 107th precinct, the precinct I grew up in, who are outside making sure that we're all safe here on the inside. And last but not least, we have another judge here this morning. He's very busy eating, but he is part of the Mayerson family. When I started with Nettie in the fall of 1987, I already knew Lee from the playground. But I got two dear friends that continue down to this day. One of them is the Honorable Judge William Viscovich. And the other one is a gentleman that is no stranger to anybody in this room. And I really have to say something about him, because without him, I wouldn't be standing here today. He's been behind me every time that I've decided to try anything. And that is everybody's best friend, Shimmy Pellman. Thank you, Shimmy. We're going to get to some very important people now. Gracie, you done with your bagel? There has been no better supporter for the Jewish community, for the state of Israel, than my Congressmember Grace May. We go back a very long time to when she was in grade school and I was in junior high school. She is, how many years have you been in Congress? 10. Goes quick. Ladies and gentlemen, the representative from the 5th Congressional, did I get that number right? No? 6? All right. From the 6th Congressional District, please give it up for my dear friend, Congresswoman Grace Meng.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Congresswoman Grace Meng, and just so proud to represent parts of Queens, and welcome to all our visitors. It's just always such a pleasure to celebrate the important work that QJCC does. And as was mentioned before, QJCC doesn't just serve the Jewish community here in Queens. It serves, and we've all seen this because we've all been at their food pantry, food distributions. They serve and feed anyone who walks in their doors, no questions asked. To a Consul General, thank you for being here. I want to say a special thank you to our outgoing QJCC President, Michael Nussbaum. Thank you for your friendship and for your leadership on so many issues, not just issues pertaining to the Jewish community. But as much as we want to thank Michael, I have to thank Dale. And your boys and your family for sharing with you for so many years. And no one in this room believes that you are truly going to retire. I want to give a special warm, as we say in Chinese, mazel tov to our friend Barry Grodenchik. Barry's talent for building bridges across communities and serving and leading in a very authentic way will really help the Jewish community and to help bring our community across the city closer together after such a time of enduring pain the last few months. I want to thank all my colleagues in government who took time on a Sunday morning to be here. Some of us may leave early because we have to go back to church. But about 20 of you were kind enough to ask me why I wasn't sitting on the dais and why I was sitting at the table with the city council members. So don't blame the QJCC staff, but I know where I'm sitting and I know the path to success. Because if you've seen where some of these former council members have gone, David Greenfield with the Met Council, Mark Traeger, JCRC, Barry Grodenchik, QJCC, I know the path to success. I'm sitting with them. But I am here today as a friend and as a sister to the Jewish community. I know that it has been an incredibly difficult time for our community here in Queens, in New York, and around the country. And I want to once again take a moment to say thank you, because as an Asian American, when the Asian community was going through a rise in anti-Asian hate over the last few years, there was so many in the Jewish community here in Queens and across the country that were amongst the first to reach out to me and to so many other Asian community members to say that we stand with you, who literally stood with us at our rallies and vigils, and then worked with us literally to help craft federal legislation that President Biden signed into law to help combat and minimize hate crimes and bias incidents that were happening across the country. Part of that legislation includes having a uniform system of reporting and collecting data on hate crimes and bias incidents, because the federal government does not have that. You have large cities like LA, Edison, Chicago, who in years like 2020 reported that there were 0 hate crimes in their city. And as much as we'd love for that to be true, we know that it's not. So, especially at this time, and that as we implement that law fully,
At this time of rising anti-Semitism and hate in this country and threats to Israel, I and all my colleagues are here to say to our brothers and sisters in the Jewish community that you are not alone, that we stand with you. In Congress, we started on the House side, a bipartisan task force on combating anti-Semitism. And a few months ago, I chose to serve as one of the co-chairs because I believe that there are a lot more things that we need to do as part of the federal government to make sure that we are adequately monitoring what's going on around the country and helping to find more solutions to combat this rising hate. When our students are being attacked and intimidated, just for going to school, just for walking across their campus, back to their dorms or to the classrooms. Calls for genocide against Jews are being downplayed, and aid to Israel is threatened. We need to stand up and say, we are with you. We are working closely with the Office of Civil Rights under the Department of Education. They are severely underfunded. They are severely understaffed. As a member of the House Appropriations Committee, we are trying to get them more funding. In the weeks after October 7th, 60 cases that were new were opened because of harassment cases across our college campuses. But they don't have enough people power to be able to adequately investigate these cases. And so they have been going across the country, conducting listening sessions with our Jewish students across college campuses. And we need more of that to fully understand what our students are going through and to make sure that our students feel safe going to class. So more to come on that, but that's something that our task force is working on. I want to take a moment to say thank you to so many of you who have continuously fought with us, especially our majority leader, Schumer. Someone tell him that I said something nice about him. To help secure a record increase in funds for the nonprofit security grant programs. Many of our institutions here in Queens, and since I think right now I'm the only Congress member here, I will say that my goal is to make sure that our district receives the highest number of federal grants than any other district. But we are having a workshop on Tuesday, February 20th, so anyone is welcome to participate. Please let us know if you would like more information. But security at our house of worship is important, but security overseas is important too. We must make sure that Israel has the support that it needs and deserves to defeat Hamas and to return the hostages. Since October 7th, I and many of my colleagues here have met with many of the families of the hostages, most of whom are still being held. We have met Omer's family multiple times. In their times of heartache and trauma, they come to Washington, D.C. They travel the city and the country, not just to fight for their son, who is a local Long Island boy, by the way, to return home, but for all of the hostages to be returned home. And I know it's very painful, but we cannot rest until all of our hostages are returned home. There have been calls, many outside of my office and my colleagues, for a ceasefire. Last week, my speech, probably similar, sorry if you guys heard it before, was put on Instagram, and it went viral, but for the wrong reasons. I want to be clear that a ceasefire must be mutual. You cannot have a one-sided ceasefire. People are calling for Israel to have a ceasefire.
No.
But are they calling for Hamas to have a ceasefire? That is the question that we have to ask. We all want peace. We all want an end to this conflict. And we all want our hostages to be returned home, including little ones like baby Kafir. They must return home. So I know that you have a lot of speeches today, but I really just wanted to be here to say thank you. I know that many people in this room and across the country feel very alone. You feel abandoned. People feel neglected. You have stood there with other communities, including my own. And I say that we are with you. Congress is with you. We stood on the steps of Capitol Hill multiple times to pledge our bipartisan support to bring our hostages home. And so we are not going anywhere. Congress stands with you, we stand with you, and the United States of America stands with you. Thank you. Special shout out to Barry's wife and family as well.
Grace, we don't feel alone when you stand with us. We know that your support is unstinting, unflinching, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Our next speaker is going, it's not going to be him because I'm changing things around the rules. The president has to do that. I can't read your handwriting, it's going to be a major issue. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to introduce somebody who was a colleague, has become a friend, was my boss. Where are you now? You're hiding behind me? Okay. And now she has the power to subpoena me, so I have to be very careful what I say. Ladies and gentlemen, there's not much I can say that you don't know about Melinda Katz. She sings really, really, really well. But she's been a wonderful district attorney, and I want to thank her for being here today. We've kind of grown up together. I met Grace when she was, well, you were probably in kindergarten when I met you. So, ladies and gentlemen, the district attorney of the great borough and county of Queens, Melinda Katz.
Thank you, thank you. I'm going to be so quick, you don't blink. So I have a speaking engagement at 11 o'clock, so let me thank the borough president for allowing me to bump him. So don't leave while I'm speaking, listen to the borough president too, okay? He's been extremely supportive of our community, and I appreciate that. I want to thank Barry Kudenchik for taking this role, thank Michael Nussbaum for the work he did. I am going to take 1 second to say that I am a little nostalgic. And for those of you that have heard me talk about this before, I've been here a lot of years now, and for those of you that are kind of my age, it is 30 years in 4 days that I will have been in elected office for 30 years. And that to me is extremely amazing. Look, we're all here, we're all talking about the same thing. At the end of the day, October 7th changed the world. You know, Golda Meir said many years ago, and I'm probably not saying it correctly, which is, you know, the world loves Jews when we're victims. And the truth of the matter is the world didn't even love Jews when we're victims this time. And I don't know how many of you read the op-ed I wrote a few months ago, which is, where is the outrage? Women were raped, they were mutilated, they were killed. Where is the outrage from all these women's groups who are out there fighting for rape is rape legislation, which was the right thing to do then, but it's also right when the women are Israeli. So we all have our Israel stories, and I can talk about the fact that, you know, I could talk as the DA, the murder rate is down 11% citywide, it's down 39% in Queens County. The murder rate is down, the shooting rate's down 25% in the city of New York, down 39% here in Queens County. We're doing our job, but we also need to make sure the world hears us, and perhaps I'm a little more nostalgic today because Mimi Rocha is retiring as Westchester DA. She was the only other, from what I can tell, Jewish district attorney in the entire state of New York, which leaves me as the last woman standing. So, you it is so important that we get together, not only for the Queens Jewish Community Council and the great work it does. I love that our Attorney General shows up at all of our events in the Jewish community. It is a big state, and yet she is always here. And that is amazing. But we will be outspoken. We will be standing together as the only, what I can tell, Jewish DA in the state of New York. I will continue to be outspoken as well. We need to make sure we bring the hostages home. But as a world, the world should have a lot more to say about our protection than they did for the 2 days after October 7th. So we still come out and say, let's bring them home, let's stand up. Israel not only has a right to survive, it has a right to thrive, and has a right for the world to defend it. So thank you very much.
We're in the stretch now. Those of you who don't know what horse racing is, come and see me later. We have 4 more speakers. The next one, I even checked the pronunciation of his name because, that's all right. Our next speaker is Yuval Daniel Gideon, who serves as the Consul for Public Diplomacy at the Consulate General of Israel in New York. He served in the IDF for 6 years. He holds a BA with honors in psychology and political science and an MA with honors in political science from the University of Haifa, not far from Kibbutz Yagur, where I was in 1985. He has been in the diplomatic service since 2006, has served in posts in Ethiopia, Rwanda, Burundi, Finland, Estonia, and now here in the United States. And I would be remiss if I did not mention the wonderful chief of staff that comes with him to every event, and that's Francine Raubvogel. Francine, will you stand up for a second? Thank you, guys. With that, I give you the council, please.
Good morning, everyone. I'll try to be brief. I'm really humbled to be here this morning with all of you. We just marked last week 4 months to the barbaric attack by Hamas on Israel. More than 4 months, and Omer is still not home, as well as the other 135 kidnapped men, women, children, babies, elderly, which are held in Gaza in horrible conditions. Over 4 months, and we still didn't eliminate Hamas' ability to do that again, but we intend to go until we do that. To all the friends of the community and of Israel, which are here this morning, thank you for making the time, as the Congresswoman said, on Sunday morning to come and be here and portray your support. It's meaningful not only for Israel and not only for the community, the Jewish community of Queens, or the Jewish community as a whole. When you're here, you're not only standing up for the Jewish community, you're not only standing up for Israel, you're not only standing up for what is right, for righteousness and not for evil. You're also standing up for the struggle which affects directly also all the free world. We just happen to be in the first row. And I think, regrettably by now, we all know that America cannot just stand aside and assume that what happened in the Middle East stays in the Middle East. So by being with us, being a friend of Israel, being a friend of the Jewish community, you acknowledge that this is way bigger than that. And yes, we are very decisive in our intention to bring this to an end that will ensure a peaceful life for the Israeli citizens and hopefully for their neighbors as well. And we're very decisive in our intention to bring back home all the hostages. But we also know that our fight is something broader, that we fight on behalf of the values that we all believe in. So I'll just conclude by saying you being here is very important. It's strengthening this important tradition. And I want to thank you again and wish everybody a pleasant weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Council. Thank you so much for being with us. Our heart is in Eretz Yisrael. This gentleman used to sit next to me in the city council, but he got a promotion. I can't say enough good things about my friend Donovan Richards Jr., except that he's the father of D3. He has done a wonderful job. I mentioned Claire a lot this morning, but he puts the shovel in the ground, and that's one of the reasons that she supported you for Borough President back in the day. But we're here to hear from him now. He has been a great friend, not only to this council, but to the Jewish community at large, represented a very large Jewish community when he was in the council, and is here today saying hello to my wife and son, but Donovan Richards Jr., our great Borough President.
Thank you. Let's give it up for Barry and all that he's going to accomplish here, certainly, and a lot's been said, but let me start by thanking everyone for being here, especially my colleagues, Congressmember Ming. Thank you for your leadership, of course, and what I would say during this moment in history is a time for moral clarity. Now is the time for moral clarity. And I'm reminded of last year being honored alongside our New York State Attorney General, Tish James. And of course, this is a very emotional time for us, and of course, a time we reflect on our history as African Americans, being that we're in Black History Month. So we were reminded last year, as our Attorney General put it, of our deep bonds with the Jewish community. Go back, of course, our days with Dr. King, the Civil Rights Movement, of course. And we were so grateful for the reaffirmation of the bonds that had long existed between our communities. But even being here last year, who could have predicted what would have happened in Israel on that hateful day, October 7th, at Nightmare? And as our Congressmember put it, there are two things that need to happen. And let's make sure that these points are very clear, because there's a lot of confusion out in the air these days. And of course, that is that our hostages must be released now, and that Hamas is a terrorist organization that must be eradicated. Do not confuse, and we cannot confuse freedom fighters for those who will kill innocent women and children. Amen. That's not what freedom fighters are representing. Freedom fighters were those individuals who sat at lunch counters with us. Amen. During a time when they said blacks couldn't sit at the same lunch counters. I'm reminded of how the Jewish community and the Black community came together during those difficult times. So we have a lot of work to do. And these two conditions that must be met are to ensure and will ensure that there's more peace, certainly in the region. And it's one of the reasons that we continued, and we're not fair weather friends in Queens. We know who our friends are. It's one of the reasons right after October 7th, we didn't have to wait. We're not fair weather friends. We stood up and we led the rally at Kew Gardens Library, with many of you in attendance, with sponsorship, of course, of the QJCC in solidarity with Israel. And then 2 weeks after that, and I want to thank the JCRC, I see my rabbi, Rabbi Miller, Howard Pollack. People thought we were crazy, but we got on the plane and we headed to Israel. There were people who said, don't go. And I said, I'm going. Because we needed to make sure that Israel knew that we stood with them and that we stand with you. And make no mistake, while we were there, we came under rocket fire. We were in Tel Aviv. It's my first experience going into a safe room. But what was most astounding is the fact that everyday Israelis who deserve to go about their lives have to download an app because they never know when rocket fire is going to rain down on them. And that's not a way to live. That should not be considered normal. So I'm reminded of that, and I'm reminded of going to the kibbutz with Howard and Robert, Rabbi Miller, seeing firsthand devastation. The stench of death, people's belongings burnt. It was unconscionable what happened to grandmothers and babies. Targets of extreme violence and brutality and evil, because that's what it is. It was pure evil what happened there. So I know many of you in this room are personally connected to the hostages, to the brave young soldiers we met, certainly at the Defense Department there. Young individuals going into the line of fire to make sure that Israel can continue to exist. So I want you to know my heart goes out to each and every one of you, and of course we will never forget, in Queens especially, the horrific crimes of October 7th, war crimes. And here at home we'll continue to work with the QJCC. I want to acknowledge and thank Michael Nussbaum for his leadership and friendship. Gil, we thought we were sending him back to you, but he's on the board, so. But I really want to thank you for your friendship, and we're working extremely closely on providing, and we will do this and get this done. We're working with the Adams administration. Of course, we will build a Holocaust memorial on the front line of Queensborough altogether, and we will continue to work closely with the administration. And of course, when we see this spike in anti-Semitism, of course, we have to thank the NYPD for all of the work that they continue to do in keeping us safe. And I want to thank them for their continuous partnership in doing briefings whenever we need to get in touch, they are there. And of course, to the QJCC, once again, thank you for your social services. You know, one thing we love about the QJCC is when you get on that line for food, they don't ask you, who do you worship? They don't ask you, who do you love? They don't ask you, they don't look at what you look like. They're there to serve the community, and we will forever be there to make sure that that support continues at the QJCC, including Music Under the Stars at Cunningham Park, which I'm proud to sponsor. And of course, I want to thank the QJCC for remaining an anchor in our community. With that being said, I'll keep going on. I want to thank Barry Grudenchik. That was the shortest speech Barry has ever given, starting off, so he's on the right road as the president. And of course, I see we're joined by my brother, the new JCRC president, Mark Traeger. And Mark and I had the privilege of drafting the legislation which created the Office to Prevent Hate Crimes when we were in the council. Also, we worked collectively during my time as public safety chair to make sure the NYPD also added hate crimes to their CompStat report. So that was legislation we worked on collectively so that we can keep track of hate crimes. With that being said, congratulations, Rabbi Mayor. May Israel continue to exist. Israel has the right to defend herself. We will be there every step of the way to make sure that you know that we are going to continue to speak up with moral clarity and strength. God bless you all. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Borough President. We're deep in the home stretch now. There is one more judge here. She's speaking to Michael Nussbaum. Judge Cassandra Johnson, if you could please stand so everybody could recognize you. County, we thank her for being here today. I also want to thank Shmira for being outside. There's Jewish security force, and I see one of their board members, Mr. I know he was here. I know Mr. Shulam, he's still there. He's probably outside. He's outside. All right. Two more speakers. The next speaker is somebody. The next two speakers really don't need introductions. So I'm just going to call Rabbi Joseph Potasnik up from the New York Board of Rabbis. If you don't know Rabbi Potasnik, you have not been living in New York City for more than 10 seconds. So, and he's got the best stories. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you so much, everyone. Firstly, let me share some information with you given to me by our Attorney General, Tish James. It's confidential. Don't let it go beyond these limits. Taylor Swift will be at the Super Bowl tonight on time. I hope
Conspiracy.
What's that?
Conspiracy.
Usher too. Secondly, Mike Nussbaum has been elevated because, as many of you know, there is no better position in the Jewish world than past president of an organization. So Mazel tov to you. Tish James reminded me of an old religious proverb: blessed are those who speak briefly, for they shall be invited back. Thank you for that reminder. Let me just say to all of you here, years ago I remember when the photographer was about to take a picture, he would turn to a member of the staff and say, who will hold the light? And I say that all of us have to hold that light. You saw a presentation about the Nutra family. This past Thursday, that family met with His Eminence, Cardinal Dolan. And we have to hold the light on those stories and also upon those who stand with us, like Cardinal Dolan. There are many good people out there. We have to make sure that they receive our commendation. Also, we have to hold the light on those Jewish students who bravely walk on campuses today, while some of those college presidents stay upstairs in their comforts of their office. And finally, I want to say that I think the Jewish star is the best symbol of the Jewish people, because it has two triangles going in opposite directions. That's sometimes who we are. We have different points of view. But let us all remember that those two triangles must remain on one flag for one people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you so much.
Amazing.
Michael Miller. You don't want to speak? Somebody just cut me off. Did we not pay the fee? Cut myself off. Rabbi Michael Miller is such a mensch that I can't tell you what a mensch he is. He's everybody's rabbi. We love him, and I could go on for you for a while, but after noon we got to start paying attention. Michael Miller, Rabbi Michael Miller, former CEO of the JCRC.
What time is kickoff?
That's not a good sign.
I thought I was giving the benediction, and now I'm actually going to be speaking. Okay.
Give a benediction.
Yeah, it's on. It's on. It's if I talk like this, I'm not going to talk like that. Okay, to be relatively brief. Everything has been said with regard to October 7th that I do not need to repeat. But one thing that has not been said enough is that during this period of time, when the Jewish community around the world, both here in Queens, in New York, in the country, and around the world, are being targeted, are being harassed. Rabbi Potasnik just said about the students on college campuses being attacked. What we need at this juncture is leadership. There's one thing I know about this organization, the QJCC. This organization has had leadership for how many years?
54. Oh, Michael.
Too many. For too many years. That's what he told me. For too many years with Michael. But to be really very serious about it, my friend Michael Nussbaum has really elevated this, always was an important organization, but he has elevated this organization because of the leadership that he brought to the organization. Taking on issues that sometimes were unpopular, taking stances that were unpopular, but representing the interests of the Jewish community here in Queens, and frankly, of the Jewish community, period. That's my friend Michael. My friend Barry, where's Barry?
Right here.
My friend Barry has a great distinction, Behind every great man is a doctor, a great woman, but not just one great woman. Nettie Meyerson, Claire Schulman, Helen Marshall, may they rest in peace, and to separate out, Melinda Katz. 4 extraordinary women with whom Barry has worked. And every step of the way, Barry has risen, then to the Assembly, then to the City Council. Leadership. Leadership is what Barry is bringing, not is going to bring, is bringing to the QJCC. One more point, and then I'll say what I want to say. One more point. It isn't just our Jewish community. We have amazing Jewish leaders here in New York, myself accepted. We have Mark Traeger. We have board members of the JCRC. We have Menashe Shapiro from the mayor's office. We have Yuval Gideon at the consulate. We also have, in the public arena, leaders. We have the Attorney General of the state of New York. Who could have a better friend in that position than there's only one Attorney General, and that is Letitia James. She deserves a round of applause. We have multiple members of Congress, but this area, this district, is represented by someone who has truly distinguished herself. Of course, she went to Israel with JCRC, where she was an assembly member, but we're not going to talk about that. But Grace Meng, and you heard it here today, as the book of Proverbs say, we say it every Friday night to the women at the table, the At alit al kulana, you have risen above them all. Grace, you're just an extraordinary friend. Members of the state senate, members of the state assembly, members of the city council, etc., borough presidents, etc., etc. Great friends. In the end of this week's parsha, the end of this week's portion, we read something, I'll be very brief. We read something that we generally don't pay any attention to. Moses went up on Mount Sinai. The last 4 verses, take a look at it when you go home. Moses went up on Mount Sinai. And Mount Sinai was enveloped in a cloud. So the last verse that we read is that Moses rises up to the mountain, the Tocha Anan, into the cloud. Rashi, the great commentator, classic commentator, 13th century commentator, brings down a citing from the Talmud. He went into a cloud, but God blazed a path for him. God cleared, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Holy One, blessed He, cleared a path for Moses entering into that cloud. The Jewish community worldwide right now is in a cloud. We pray to God that He will blaze a path for us. But we just can't depend on God alone. We need to take action as well. The late, great Nobel laureate Elie Wiesel said, the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. The opposite of art is not ugliness, it's indifference. The opposite of faith is not heresy, it's indifference. The opposite of life is not death, it's indifference. We cannot afford to be indifferent. We need leadership. We need leadership to blaze a path. I am very pleased that our friend Barry Grodenchik, following our friend Michael Nussbaum into the presidency of JCRC, working with the great Mayor Waxman, to blaze a path for the Jewish community in Queens. May that be God's will. Amen.
Probably should have said this an hour ago. Thank you, Rabbi Miller. There are envelopes on the table. If you want to put money in them, or a check, or your credit card, Rabbi Waxman will be very happy to take them from you. We're going to have just two very, very brief. I don't have Tish James here, so she'll cut you off. She used to cut them off for the council. I have very, very brief regards. First, from, he's paying attention to his phone, the executive, what's your title? CEO of the Met Council on Jewish Poverty, without whom we could not do much of the work that we do. He feeds the city of New York. My dear friend and former colleague in the New York City Council, David Greenfield, come up and say, I'm going to see which one of you between Mark Traeger and David Greenfield could talk for the last time.
I promise you I'll be more brief than Rabbi Michael Miller. That much I promise. Look, I really just wanted to come up to say, and I don't normally speak at these events, but I appreciate the offer. I really wanted to say thank you, because Michael Nussbaum has been a tremendous leader, not just to Queens, but the Jewish community throughout New York and beyond. I want to pay my respects to him for his tremendous leadership. I know it's not easy passing the baton over, but you've, believe it or not, you've chosen a wonderful younger, he's a little younger, yeah. Not as good looking as you, but definitely younger, leader here in our new president. I will tell you that Barry's a real mentor. We're excited to have him as well. And I wanted to thank Rabbi Mayor Waxman. You mentioned he's just done tremendous work as the new executive director. Thank you, Rabbi Waxman, as well. And I do want to thank Rabbi Michael Miller on his farewell tour now, the great work that he's done as he heads into retirement, and his new CEO replacement. I got to tell you, you folks don't know the power of Mark Traeger. He's one of the most influential, important, smartest people we've ever worked with, and Menashe Shapiro can vouch for him as well. And finally, I do want to just make one last very important point, which is, anybody here ever been in the hospital before in your life? I have. You've been in the hospital, you're a patient in the hospital, you're sick. When you're sick in the hospital, you can't do a lot. But you never, ever forget the people who come visit you in the hospital. And when you get out of the hospital and you're better, you say, thank you. Right now, as a Jewish people, we're in the hospital. We're hurting, we're injured, we're in pain. We can't think straight, it's true. But our friends who have visited us and who've stuck with us are really extraordinary. We're never going to forget our Attorney General Tish James, ever. We're never going to forget our Congressmember Grace Meng, who takes hits every single day. We're never going to forget all of our friends from the non-Jewish community who stood with us. And it may not be apparent today, because like I said, we're sick. But I promise you, we're going to be here for a year, 5 years, 20 years, 50 years. We will not forget you. So I just want to say thank you. And of course, I can't go anywhere in Queens without thanking my mentor, Karen Koslowitz, for her great leadership in the City Council. And it's a partner for us to be the main philanthropic partner of the Queens Jewish Community Council. Thank you, Barry.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you. Well, I'm going to be the last speaker. But the next to last speaker, I kind of introduced you already. If he ever invites you over for dinner, go. Because he is a chef and baker extraordinaire. I'm outing you here, but you know, somebody has to talk about your culinary. The incoming Chief Executive Officer of the JCRC, you're going to get thinner. I don't know how you're going to get thinner, but you're going to be working 200 hours a week. My dear friend, just an absolutely wonderful man, and I'm so happy that the JCRC will be in wonderful hands. So for less than David Greenfield talking, my dear friend, former councilman, new JCRC CEO, Mark Traeger.
Good morning. Good morning. We still have some energy. Good morning. Good morning. I have my Brooklyn passport because I could not miss the bar mitzvah of Barry. I'm sorry, the inauguration of Barry Granenchik. Congratulations, Barry. I think you took a bar mitzvah reunion here in council as well. I have to say, I am so proud to know Barry. But I want to just, before I go further, I want to recognize a lot of great announcements and great, wonderful compliments to the past president, but forever servant, to Michael Nussbaum. Thank you, Michael, and to your family for your great service To Rabbi Executive Director Mayor Waxman, thank you for your service. Of course, we just heard from my great friend David Greenfield and Rabbi Michael Miller. Where's Howard Pollock is here from JCRC as well. You know, just listening and hearing about the phenomenal work of this great organization, I have to tell you that it resonates with me on a personal level for a number of very brief reasons, as Barry will say. The social services that are provided by this outstanding organization, if you think about it, my family, for example, came here from the former Soviet Union in 1979. Not a penny to their name, just with their family and dreams for a better life, escaping religious persecution, economic turmoil. And it was the social safety net programs of Hayas and other groups that helped support them and get them through very challenging, difficult times. Folks know me very well as the education chair, former education chair of City Council. But what folks might not know is that I entered the council right in the aftermath of Superstorm Sandy. And my tenure ended in the middle of a pandemic. And it was organizations like Met Council, like this great organization, that came into some of the hardest hit neighborhoods from that storm to the pandemic with food, clothing, basic necessities, basic supplies. That's who we are. That's the Jewish community that we are. We are proud to be Jewish. We are proud to be neighbors, to help one another during our time of need. That's in our DNA. And Barry Grodenchik is someone who is very humble. What you might not know about Barry is that Barry was in the budget room fighting for millions of dollars for emergency food assistance programs to help make sure that every child, every senior, every family from every zip code had food on their table. That is the work of Barry Grodenchik. So I'll close here today to say that I know this is the last speech, but I'm also a former history teacher. And a lesson that I shared at the JCRC breakfast, I'm going to share here as well, as I'm proud. A lesson throughout the ages that the Jewish people have faced hostile empires, hostile pharaohs, hostile dynasties, monarchies, to evil 20th century dictators and tyrants, to modern day terrorism. But if there's a lesson that we have learned throughout history, never underestimate the heart, the strength, and the resilience of the Jewish people. We shall prevail again. Return our hostages home now. Ham Israel, aye. And thank you. Speaking of our friends, please never forget the friends who are with us, from our Attorney General to our members of Congress to our friends from state and city government. It's easy to be a friend during the good times. It's tough to be a friend during the tough times. Please give a round of applause to our outstanding friends in government as well.
I think it was a tie between Mark and David. Menashe, you want to say a few words on behalf of the mayor? Okay. I have some ending words. I'll send you home with these words. And these words are from a great rabbi who lived a long time ago, Rabbi Nachman of Breslau. I've studied his works and I've read his works. The whole world is full of quarrels among the nations, in every city, in every home, among neighbors, and in the workplace. No one realizes that the day that has passed will never return, and each day one draws closer to passing away. How does one find time to waste on quarrels? Therefore, everyone should take this to heart and learn patience and not waste one's days in quarrels large or small. May we all learn to live together in peace, to restrain ourselves, and to move forward as a united community here in Queens, New York City, and New York State, and in this great country we call the United States of America. Thank you all for being here today. I look forward to working with each and every one of you. God bless you all. Enjoy the Super Bowl.